What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, plump, grilled, amazing, homemade Polish kielbasa. Coming up. This is some meat. Pat it dry. And what I got here is 5 pounds of some pork meat. This is from the last time I broke down a whole pig. I cubed up all the lean meat and the fat and made these little packages of perfect 70-30 fat to meat ratios of pork and pork back fat, which is very convenient, saving me a lot of time. But of course, if you don't have that option, you can always just get some pork butt or some pork belly and a leaner cut to balance it out. I've done that plenty of times in all my other sausage making videos. And in my kielbasa research, a lot of people say that kielbasa, or at least what we think of as kielbasa here in the States, is an entirely pork sausage. Some people like to add a little beef, some people like to add some lamb or venison or whatever. But today we're gonna go all pork, and I think it's gonna be absolutely fantastic. So, since this is already nicely cubed up, it'll fit down the meat grinder a lot easier, and it'll freeze a lot quicker, which is the next step. So I'm gonna pop this into the freezer for the next 30-40 minutes to get nice and chilled down so we get a nice clean grind. While we wait, let's go ahead and get our spices together, including 1 package of nice and plump sausage mix, on sale now at chudsbbq.com. And this is rated for 5 pounds of pork and has most of the ingredients that a lot of traditional kielbasa recipes call for, including salt, pepper, some garlic. It's also got the milk powder in there, which I don't think is a traditional thing. I don't think they really use binders much for traditional kielbasa, but I like to use binders, make sure everything is, in fact, nice and plump. And the only thing in here that's really out of left field, I think, would be like paprika, but I don't think that's gonna make or break anything. And it saves me a lot of time from having to weigh out a bunch of spices. But we are gonna doctor it up a little bit because we're curing this sausage. We're gonna go in with some pink curing salt #1. And also because I wanna smoke this today, well tonight, overnight, I'm gonna add some sodium erythorbate, which is a cure accelerator. I don't think it's necessary because we're gonna be cold smoking, and I don't plan on cooking these through for another 12 hours, but just to be safe, we're gonna add the cure accelerator. Eric from 2 Guys in a Cooler, if you're watching this, let us know in the comments if I have to add a cure accelerator if I'm gonna be cold smoking for, 7 to 10 hours. Anyway, we're also gonna go in with some yellow mustard seeds, a little extra fresh cracked black pepper. I've got some freshly minced garlic. I'm usually not a fan of fresh garlic in sausage, but it's been a while and I kind of want this to have a nice garlicky punch to it. Of course, we're going in with some marjoram, classic ingredient for kielbasa. And about 50% of the kielbasa recipes I was looking at online called for some sort of sweetener, typically white sugar, brown sugar, something like that. And I've never really put brown sugar into a sausage before, but I figured we might as well give it a shot because more than one recipe called for it. So I will let you know. But I just get that all nice and mixed up and our seasoning blend is done. Now that our meat is nice and cold, through the grinder we go. We're going through the small die today, and my gut tells me that I want to go through the coarse die, get kind of a more coarse sausage, but I think back to all the kielbasas I've had here in the States growing up, those big horseshoe links. They were all almost emulsified and very tight bound, so that's what I'm going to aim for today. Beautiful. And now in we go with all our spices. Just get that all nice and mixed up. Definitely feeling nice and tight already. That small die works this meat a lot more than the coarse one does. And we're gonna go in with our water at this point as well. And just mix this up until it is nice and tacky. And just like that, looking nice and tacky and nice and sticky. Let's get this cased up. Oh. It smells good. It's been a minute since I made such a fine sausage. Texturally, that is. Going on with some 28 mil casings today. At least I think they're 28 mil. They might be 32s. I've got a package of each in my fridge and I didn't label them. So after this, if I remember, I'll label them. Look like 28s though. Tie it off. Where's my tip snipper? Actually, we're gonna leave this tail on so we can tie these off at the end. But making some big old horseshoe links today, folks. About like that. Snip it, boop, give it a twist, and tie it off like a giant C-link. And there we go, a beautiful little kielbasa. Well, gigantic. And now we repeat. And there we have it, folks, a bunch of beautiful big old ring kielbasas ready to go. I got 5 of them, and this biggest one at the end, I made it too big, and when I tried to fold it, it popped, and I don't feel like getting another casing out, so we're gonna roll with it. But what I'm gonna do now for the next little bit is pop these guys on some little hooks looks like this, and I'm gonna hang them up in front of a fan for probably the next 2 hours, just to really dry out that casing a little bit before we put some smoke on these things. So we'll check back in when it's dark. All right, it's been a few hours, and as you can see, these are nicely dried out. No perceivable moisture on these links at all. Feeling nice and tight. That's really gonna help us get some good color on there, good smoke penetration, and a nice snappy casing. So let's go ahead and get these on the pit. So as you can see, I got these hanging up in my Camp Chef Woodwind Pro pellet cooker. I took the bottom rack out, as well as the baffle plate, so these can hang freely without touching the ground, and hopefully not touching each other. I might rotate those a little bit. And in the corner over here, I've got a smoke tube. Oh God, this thing is just filled up with some post oak pellets, and I'm gonna light it up. Beautiful. And that'll smoke for the next probably 6 hours or so. And this thing is gonna get nice and smoky. We should get some wonderful flavor and some wonderful color on these links, but we will check back in tomorrow. All right, these guys smoked overnight, or at least for a good 6 hours overnight. Then I brought them inside, put them in the fridge this morning. It's now the next afternoon, and I have fired this Camp Chef up to about 225, and I've just got these coming up to temp of about 150 degrees. And I gotta say, they're looking very nice, feeling very plump, beautiful red color on there, get some extra smoke on them. But now that they're up to 150, it's time to go ahead and throw them into an ice bath. Beautiful links. All right, folks, after a nice long cold smoke and ice bath, this is what these beautiful kielbasa are looking like, and I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to dive on in. This is one that I popped back on the old pellet grill at about 250 degrees until it hit an internal of 160. And now I think it's time to see how it came out. Cutting very nicely, smelling fantastic, looking nice and juicy, nice and smoky. Got a little studage in there. Gotta say, pretty happy with how these came out. But then again, it's all about the flavor. But first, a true kielbasa has to be thrown on a grill, am I right? So nostalgic. Yeah, the grilled ones are definitely the way to go. Much more plump than the traditional smoked. Let's go ahead and get some of these sliced up. Very nice, fine grind on that. Looking pretty nice and plump. We'll start with one of the traditionally smoked ones. Okay. Right off the bat, it's got that nice salty, savory vibe going on. Get a little bit of pop from those mustard seeds. It's pretty soft, as you can kind of tell just by the look of it. It's not nearly as turgid as some of the other links we've made on this channel. And then towards the end, you get a little bit of subtle sweetness. It's definitely not overpowering. I'm not the biggest fan of the sweetness. It kind of gives me like a Christmas sausage vibe, or almost like a breakfast sausage, but still pretty good. And then of course, we've got the beautiful fresh off the grill. That's a very pleasant sausage. And as with most things, if you add an extra layer of char to the outside, a little more depth of flavor, it's gonna be better. And cooking them to a higher temp definitely plumped it up a little bit more, which is very pleasant. But I think I need some mustard. A little spicy brown, why not? Can have some spicy brown one way or another, you know what I mean? And a little Dijon. Boop. I like Dijon on a sausage. That was so good. Also, gotta say, love the big little horseshoe link. Very pleasant to look at, very easy to cook. Also, 5 pounds made, I think, 5 links. So if you're new to casing, this is a great way to go about it because you don't have to do nearly as many. But then again, if you do pop one like I did on one of them, then you mess up about 1/5 of your batch, which is take it or leave it, but fun technique. Just a classic sausage with some mustard. If I do this again, I'd probably cut out the brown sugar, but I'm also glad I did it because I've never done that with the sausage before. Nice and snappy, nice and smoky. All in all, I think it's just a really great classic style of sausage, you know? It's not like one of those super cheesy or spicy sausages that's really just gonna kind of blow you away and smack you with flavor. But I think kind of like andouille, this would be a great sausage to be used in other dishes, not necessarily eating straight off the cutting board. But you know, all in all, it's just got really nice rounded flavors to it, nice and smoky. Nothing to complain about here. I think if I was gonna do this again, I'd probably add some beef to it, and I'd probably hang it up at room temp overnight to really dry out instead of doing the fan method. It just gets that more snappy, almost like crispy casing when you do that. That's kind of what I remember from eating store-bought kielbasa growing up. I would also probably add a little more heat. But again, if you're new to sausage making and looking for just a great middle-of-the-road, very pleasant, well-rounded sausage recipe, I highly recommend it. And it does go great with some mustard. I need to get some buns. But with this last bite, I think it's time for the official taste test. Alright y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic, classic Polish kielbasa. And yes, I am aware of the fact that the word kielbasa is just the Polish word for sausage. So anyone who made it this far in the video, feel free to go down into the comments below and timestamp this moment for everyone that felt the need to tell me that little fun fact thus far. But I do highly recommend making this sausage. As much as I love making crazy, cheesy, spicy sausages or trying to make a whole meal in a casing, it is always fun to go back and make a classic like this and experiment with new flavor profiles, classic recipes, and different techniques. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!